Time during the show, type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, good evening listeners. Welcome to Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Chizito. On Spectrum, tonight we review some of the issues we'll look at. NRM Cash Bonanza and the Youth's Drama. This week, Ugandans were treated to drama on television from different parts of the country. Some NRM MPs were under attack as party members demanding the pro-mobilization, the pro-Yoweri Museveni mobilization cash. It was epic in Busoga, the Busoga region, where some irate crowds resorted to grabbing seats and shouting at MPs until they had actually handed this cash down to them. It appears there's more interest in the cash than in the message being carried by the MPs. Although later on resolutions supporting their opposed candidature of Museveni were for the most part passed. On the other hand, the Amamba Mbabazi candidature has also gone on, and we're going to ask the question, what is this that is happening? We'll also talk about the bitterness among the opposition politicians with the president when he attacked the Lord Mayor of Kampala, capital city. Dr. Besigye called journalists to his house and told them this is hate speech, it can lead to a lot of trouble. We'll talk about that. Also, Sudan and Uganda have renewed their bitter rivalry. Uganda says the Sudanese are arming Ugandan rebels. The Sudanese say Uganda is arming Sudanese rebels. We'll talk about that and the deaths in South Sudan. Over 400 civilians killed in Bentiu town as the rebels continue to fight, saying they want to capture power in our northern neighbor, South Sudan. Our guest tonight, Dr. David Mushabe, Senior Partner at the Mushabe Munongo and Company. Advocates, you're most welcome, Dr. Mushabe.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, viewers, listeners, and my fellow panelists.
We also are joined by Ms. Sarah Eperu, spokesperson for the FDC Women's League. You're most welcome, Madam Sarah Eperu.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, listeners and viewers.
Also, Mr. Alan Kajik, Deputy Resident City Commissioner in charge of Kampala Central. You're most welcome, Mr. Kajik.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, listeners.
And for your maiden appearance here on Spectrum. Also joined by Imam Id Kasozi, lecturer at the Islamic University in Uganda. He's also a Muslim cleric, once cleric at the Makerere University Mosque. You're most welcome, Imam Id Kasozi.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Viewers, because we are also on the internet, you can get a video of Spectrum of internet channel, YouTube. Dr. Mushabe, this money they're giving to these people, what exactly is it?
Well, there is what it is, and there is what it seems. So, it seems like it is some sort of legitimate money normally for mobilizing masses for a noble cause, but this cause, we are told, it is to secure single candidature
for a seventh
for President Museveni. Now, that much as it might be sugar-coated, there is something fundamentally wrong with this exercise. This is institutionalized corruption. You don't dish out cash, paying people money to convince them, like they use money in buying votes. They have remained true to their character and conduct. Even when they are seeking to get the public to endorse such a resolution, they dish out money to quote the voters. To me, this is corrupting the goodwill of Ugandans. If they want the will of the people to be reflected without being compromised or corrupted, adulterated, money should not be involved. Now, the drama and the irate crowds we have seen, basically what causes this being upset or the irate crowds? Because they have been betrayed. The campaign promises are never fulfilled. If they are ever fulfilled, it is to the minimum. Now they are seeing this money being brought around, the bags of money. So, to them, I think Ugandans are waking up. They are saying, look, you have failed to do all these things that you promised you would do, so now let us grab our cash and go. After all, this is our money, this is taxpayers' money. For me, I have seen a new era in Uganda where even the peasants are saying no. we are taking this money, UNP, you are not taking it back. And after taking it, then they say, no, we are not giving that sole candidature. So I don't know whether there is a political reawakening. But where they get the audacity to grab the money, you know that Ugandans are becoming broader and more broad and aggressive in the political arena. So they are more interested in the money than in the resolution. Because behind the money there is no message that they can sell.
There is a message.
There is no message. Which message?
Fundamental change.
But the fundamental change we were told was that Africa's number one problem is overstaying by its leaders.
It was 40 years, not 33.
Yes, but overstaying, actually there was a proviso when they are not elected.
That was a revision.
Yeah, but whether you are elected or not, the word overstaying, the definition remains the same. So I think Ugandans are protesting. They are saying, give us our cash. We hear about the OPM scandals. We have had Gavi. We have had the bicycle scandals and all that. You guys in Kampala, you eat money, so we are grabbing this one, we are going away. So I don't think that the money will give them the loyalty and the reciprocal action that they seek. I think it is going to be a failed exercise.
Maybe it is for fundraising. Maybe it was a refund of transport. Maybe they're giving them money so they can go and collect it together so they can build a borehole for themselves. How do you tell?
You see, a borehole, you must have a committee, you have an agenda, you have a target. But where money is distributed among thousands of people, how do you expect somebody who has taken 1,000 shillings to bring it back to the common pool for the borehole?
So 5,000, not 1,000.
Even 5,000, they'll never see that money.
You think they'll buy meat instead at the shops?
And booze.
Dr. Sarah Peru, you yourself are convinced about this money being given out. Why do you say 5,000 is too little? They should have given out more. That's what you've been saying.
First of all, the exercise is an illegality. They are trying to market a resolution that was passed by an illegal body, the NRM caucus. It is not their mandate to choose for the NRM the candidate. I think that one is very clear in the constitution. Secondly, what hurts me is the money. The money, this is taxpayers' money. This is money from the consolidated funds, but I hear some of it came from elsewhere. 6 billion is a hell lot of money. What else could it have done for these marginalized people? You see, I wish you saw the pictures on TV. It shows how marginalized Ugandans are. They are poverty-stricken. If I were Mr. Museveni, I would have cried all night. Seeing people I'm leading, scammering for peanuts. What can you do with 5,000?
Maybe cried over an all night.
I cried myself when one of the people who picked the 5,000 said, oh my God, at least I can go to hospital. Did Mr. Museveni hear that message? People can't go to hospitals because you cannot provide medicines in hospitals. They cannot access free medicines, free medical care. And because you are taking money to distribute over an illegality, they are excited and they're saying, at least I can get a Panadol or an aspirin to treat myself. It pained me. I saw all the pictures that are extremely, extremely painful. As in opposition, we have been saying these guys have been reading us, they have been bribing voters, and then others were saying, no, show proof. The proof is there. I'm going to pick that thing and tell them that if internally you are this bad, and you know the whole process is not to popularize, it's not to ask Mr. Museveni to be the sole candidate. The right word you journalists should use is to decampaign Mr. Mbabazi. The 6 billion has been put on one person like this, internally in NRM, to decampaign him. Of course, ordinarily they'll think, it's the other project, but it's just from Mbabazi's head. So it hurts me and haunts me.
You want to cross over and fight from within?
No. It's, how do you do such a thing during broad daylight? What about
they should wait for nightfall or what?
No. Of course, even if they did it in the night, as long as we saw it during broad daylight, it becomes very nasty. So they are using taxpayers' money. That is theft.
But you can't.
This is money that should have been.
This is money from that party. They have their own coffers, even though they don't have a party headquarters like UPC. They have their own.
Let me tell you the mathematics. I don't know if you know it, Edmund. Each member of parliament contributes roughly 100,000 every month. Assuming there are 200 members of parliament, that is 22 million per month.
Yes.
In 1 year, they contribute 240 million. So in 5 years, they'll be contributing roughly 1.2 billion.
But the other people will love that party so much.
Where are they? Now, I've given you that mathematics. In 5 years, the contribution from Parliament is going to be 1.2. So far in the recent saga, cash saga, that's 26 billion.
Only
6 billion, okay? If you look at the other expenditures as well. Secondly, I've always said it on this radio over and over again. If it is clean money, why don't they declare it to the Electoral Commission? They've never taken their returns there. You know, when you take your returns, like SFDC, we declare our income and expenditure and take it to the Electoral Commission, and it's public information. I want you to go and access that information in the Electoral Commission where the NRM has declared its returns. I'm hearing them very excited. They're saying, you know, 6 parties have been deregistered. NRM is not amongst them, so we have fulfilled all our obligations, which is a lie. So this is taxpayers' money, which they're stealing and using in such a funny manner.
Mr. Kajik, you talk to us about you. I see you nodding as you say it's stolen money. Talk to us. Why do you do those things?
It's so interesting.
As though you don't go to church, you NRM people and mosques.
No, this money is not stolen. This money is not stolen. What I want to say here is that, Edmond, is that the NRM caucus, she has rightly put it, they contribute money every month. They contribute
1 billion in 5 years
to run. I don't know the total figure, but they do this. They do this to run the caucus activities. But also, NRM has other members. It is not only the members of Parliament that are members of NRM, and therefore, the contribution, the monies that you're seeing that our members of Parliament have gone to spend, give as the transport refund for a number of the delegates that have been attending the meetings, is purely from the coffers of the caucus. And therefore, it's not true. No taxpayers' money has been stolen. It is money raised by NRA members of Parliament. It is it's money raised by the well-wishers within the.
No, we believe you, obviously. We believe
yes, and therefore, the right to go and explain. And you know, the message is being distorted here. What these guys these honourable members are doing, it is not only to explain about the sole candidature of Museveni or of Mbabazi. No, that is not true. There are a package of messages that these people are taking across. One, for the last 2.5 years, these honourable members have been in Parliament. These people need to go back to their constituencies and explain a number of things. And this is a routine. They have the right to go back to their constituencies and explain that for the last 2.5 years we have done the following, and they must ask the people. They have manifestos. They must ask the people, have they fulfilled this? If not, when they take on the technocrats, because it is the NRM government that is in charge, it is in government, and therefore the technocrats also needed to explain to the communities why have they not done the following, and yet Parliament has passed the resolution or has passed the budget to implement a number of activities. The Chankwanzi resolution is one of the things that are being explained to the people. The members of Parliament want to explain to the people, because many of them do not know what happened in Chankwanzi. Many of us actually, because we are not all there. So they want to explain to the public how the sole candidate came about. And therefore, they have a right. They have to go and explain. Any other person who feel aggrieved. Actually, interestingly, it is somebody from another party that is feeling aggrieved about this. It is so interesting. It should be somebody within
until you explained, they thought it was money from government. But now you've explained, they believe you.
No.
I don't.
That's a good one.
Not among
but the truth is that they're explaining about what happened in Chankwanzi, and therefore, the Honorable Prime Minister, who is the Party Secretary General, was present in Chankwanzi, and I am very sure. And I'm very sure he will get to Kanungu and also explain some of these things.
But Kanungu, he has problems in Kanungu. They prefer that he becomes the president.
But you see, the problem is that people are putting words in Honorable Prime Minister's mouth. That is the truth.
No,
he has come out. He has come out to say he is not contesting come 2016. He has made it clear. He has addressed. The other day he was almost annoyed with people saying, "Why do you want to put words into my mouth every time?"
Maybe they'll convince him, like they convinced the president wanted to retire and go and rear his cattle, his cows, but they convinced him and he decided to stay around longer. Maybe they'll convince Amama Mbabazi to be president.
Yeah, that is all up to the delegates conference. It is all up to the delegates conference. They will decide on what happens.
The national conference.
But yes, the national delegates conference will certainly decide. But the members of parliament have a duty to this country and to their constituency to explain why or what they have done for the 2.5 years that they have been in parliament.
Imam Kasozi, is what we are seeing above board? What does it tell us about the politics of our beloved motherland?
Thank you very much. It is a pity that we still have some Ugandans who can come to defend the situation that we have seen on television, especially the way they have reduced our people to nothing.
What do you mean?
You see, to nothing. If you are coming to gather people, and you say because you have you see there are different figures being given, but I like to make these figures into reality.
Yes.
Whether you call it 4 million for each sub-county, whatever you want to call it. Maybe the smallest sub-counties in some districts, if for example Iganga, with its population density, you see, a sub-county has a population that is well over and above maybe 100,000 people. Okay? So even if you divided that by the amount of money given to them, you'll find that each of them was given, I think, about 1,000 shillings.
Well, you're counting adults.
No, you see, if you give me money now, you are not giving me Imam Kasozi alone. I have a wife, I have children, I have other dependents.
Right.
Okay? All of them, I take care of them. But my concern is not about the money. My concern is the level to which our people have been reduced. They have become maybe paupers. Therefore, they have no difference with these children you call the Karamajongo children on the streets of Kampala who are begging. You see? And therefore somebody, an MP, that's why I told you, these hopeless MPs, they are hopeless. They are not honorable. The MPs are hopeless. They are hopeless. I saw him a hopeless person. No, please. No. We must. I am telling you, they are hopeless. They have no hope. I am not using. Okay, let me explain the context of the word. They have no hope. If they had hope, anybody with hope cannot carry that money. Therefore, if you have no hope, you are hopeless. It's as simple as that. And therefore, when I saw the so-called Panado, for example, the way he did it in Iganga, and the way old women... His name is actually Panado. Old women... No, his name is not Panado.
He's what?
Her mother used to sell Panado, and he was a shop attendant before he came to maybe school, and therefore they called him Panado. That I went to find out.
Go on.
So, but my interest is, if I am the head of state, if I am the resident commissioner, this one I am seated with here,
across,
and I see the population I am leading in that shape,
you resign.
In that shape, the next step is either to resign or to say I'm very sorry and I come and apologize to Uganda. Therefore, if you look at this, somebody, this one, the lawyer has called it institutionalized corruption, and now we have arms of government or people serving government backing the act. One, it is also very dangerous. It may cause chaos amongst the population.
What do you mean chaos? If you have money in your pocket,
no, people fighting for that 10,000, 5,000, maybe 1,000, because if
you can buy some meat for the first time in 10 years.
How much meat do you buy? Because I saw one of the ladies said that I can go and buy meat because it was Easter time, but 5,000. How much meat? Half a kilogram of meat?
Kilo. Oh, half a kilo.
Half a kilo of meat. And then what about the rest? But my interest is, originally, when they were bringing this money, they said it was to organize tents, to sell soft drinks, some shares. But now, when we begin to see that it was used for the population plan, the resolutions in Chankwanzi. The resolutions in Chankwanzi are not for the population of Uganda.
What do you mean?
The resolution of Chankwanzi should be maybe either hall meetings by party,
like
by the political party, inviting its members and explaining to them. But inviting the constituency, you see, in the constituency, when you invite people to come,
yes,
there are people who may not be of your party, but they have voted you. Because they have voted you, they have that attachment. But my sadness is the level of poverty through which our people are subjected to. This afternoon, one of my students called me, and he was lacking only 20,000 to clear so that he can sit for his final examination. This is a third-year university student. You see, that's where so when you see what you see in the villages is what is reflected on our population, and therefore, what I am expecting, we are going to witness a lot of robberies.
Oh, don't predict bad.
I am telling you, we are going to see that. We shall see people, these women, those who have necklaces and people who have watches, they are going to suffer again, because some people are going to begin snatching telephones once again, because they are just looking for survival. And this is, and if you are the head of state, or you are in a government, or you belong to a party that has reduced the citizens to that level, and you still celebrate its mightiness, then to me, I don't know which words to use.
Sarah, will this whole campaign, will it achieve its objective? Give us an objective view from the opposition.
Thank you, Edmond. But before I tell you the objective, I'm a little bit disappointed with my brother. If you have any relative in Parliament, go and consult him or her, and I know they'll tell you that they're paid every weekend to go and consult their constituencies. They're given mileage. That is why they come to Parliament on Tuesday up to Thursday. Then Friday and the weekend up to Monday, they're consulting to tell people about their programs. So if you think this stolen money that was given to
it was not stolen, madam. The gentleman has clarified.
In fact, I have intelligence information. I can give it to you. Some of this money here came from the Uganda Revenue Authority.
No, you can't say things like that.
Yes, I'm telling you that one is for just to Edmond. That is information for you. But just to sum up the whole thing, it reminds me of in the year 2001 when Dr. Besigye had decided to contest for presidency. You remember that time we were all in the movement system.
Yeah, except me.
But Mr. Museveni, I think he forgot. All of us were in the movement, and he said the movement, did he call it caucus, had endorsed him to be the sole candidate.
Yes.
When he saw the legalities
was
involved,
it telling an untruth?
it was not a party. All of us were in the movement. It was not this NRM that is NRMO that is a party. So that one was a body that all of us belonged to, and they since called it, they did call it a party then. So when he realized the legal implications, they changed. They said they have not endorsed me as the sole candidate, they're urging me to be the sole candidate. That is what is happening now. Wherever he sees there's a threat on his chair, he looks, for a way of safeguarding it. And why is this so? This gentleman has never gone through an election.
Yes, go on.
He has never gone through an election since 1981 when he contested for the member of parliament.
1980, he stood to be president.
Yeah, 1980. Since then, he has never gone through an election internally in the party. So he's scared stiff. That is why he's trying to barricade himself, and nobody tries to touch his chair. But you're asking, is it going to...
Will the objective be achieved?
This is a dictatorship.
They can't say things like
it is.
It's an elected government.
In fact, it's a military dictatorship, if you don't know.
It's a government people love. What
is going to happen? He's going to use every dubious means at his disposal. He's going to use every dubious means at his disposal to ensure that he's the sole candidate. You know what happened? In 2011, this gentleman who tried to contest for the NRM party flag bearer.
What happened to him?
He's in jail. This Mr. Maguru, where is he now? He tried to go to Chankwanzi.
I've spoken to him on the phone.
He tried to go to Chankwanzi to front the same thing.
He's around here. Let's take a break. This is Spectrum Radio, and we'll be back to stay tuned.
Hey, Miss Namialo, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Cynthia Ruhanga is here. Mr. Okot.
Oh, Atie,
I'm so happy to see all of you. Come in. You're very welcome.
Just like Stella warmly welcomes you to her house at Finance Trust, we have always been your trusted financial institution. You have grown, and we've grown too. And now that we have become a commercial bank, our doors are open for you to grow even further. Come and enjoy fast, convenient, and accessible banking services. Welcome to Finance Trust Bank. Finance Trust Bank, putting women first.
This house has been in our family for years. I remember the first time I painted with my father. I must have been about 12 years old. Yeah.
What has the poor child done?
Mother joked that I was being punished, but I didn't think of it that way. One thing stuck with me though. I remember Dad saying to me,
when it comes to paint, there's really one company you can never go wrong with. I have trust in their products. The quality is unbeatable.
The words stuck with me. And now, as I put the finishing touches on renovating the house, there really is just one option.
When you need quality paint you can trust, look no further than Sadolin. Sadolin, color your world. Legitimate whiskey is different. I am proud that we can now enjoy quality and taste. And style too. I have not felt so original with the liveliness I get each morning after I enjoy legitimate whiskey. Everything seems to be going my way. This is a worthy discovery. Legitimate whiskey is blended from carefully selected Scotch malt, giving it a golden amber appearance with a silky smooth and soothing taste for lasting satisfaction. Legitimate whiskey, a masterfully crafted blend, expertly blended, lighter and styled whiskey. Please enjoy responsibly.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight we review some of the issues we're looking at. The money that has divided and also united people almost in equal measure across the country. The NRM, they've been giving out money in the villages in front of television cameras with people fighting over some of it, not all of it. We'll also talk about the bitterness by the opposition towards the press statements made by the president. He said the Lord Mayor is little more than his robes. We'll also talk about South Sudan, the rebel killings in there, their mass killings in there, and claims that Khartoum, Sudan, is backing Ugandan rebels and vice versa. Our guests, Dr. David Mushabe from the Africa Rainbow Coalition, also senior partner of the Mushabe Mnungu and Company Advocates, Ms. Sarah Peru, spokesman for the FDC Women's League, Mr. Alan Kejik Anite, Deputy Resident City Commissioner in charge of Kampala Central. Also, Imam Eid Kesozi, lecturer at the Islamic University in Uganda. Madam Sarah Peru, we know that secretly in your heart you love the NRM. Talk to us about this matter being concluded.
Another Peru, not me. Not me. As I conclude on this point, I think you can see now, NRM as an institution is dead. Time and time again we've been saying NRM is Museveni and Museveni is NRM. They have allowed themselves to be funded by one person. Mr. Museveni cleverly does not allow them to fundraise from anywhere. So because he's the one who provides them with money, they look at him like a god. That is why they're always coming around to make sure that he's the sole candidate. So NRM is there, it's dead. So at the end of the day, he's going to get his way. We are going to have a Museveni contest as the sole candidate for the NRM seat.
Well, Dr. Mushabe, before we leave this topic, do we really need an election? It's all clear. One man is loved by almost everyone around the country. Do we need an election in 2016?
Put it right.
You see, for purposes of democracy, whether he is the strongest man, of course, when you peruse our political spectrum and the players, you realize that at the face of it, he's the strongest, so he's most likely to win. But like any diplomat, any Democrat would do, you allow other people. You don't say, I'm strong, I'm anybody, even somebody from Nakapiripit who finished S6 should come and contest at Nambole.
But why cause division inside of a united?
No, there is, you cannot coerce, you cannot force unity, or you cannot I'm looking for the other word. You cannot coerce people speak the same language. You must engage people. to make enlightened decisions, not blind decisions. Now for this thing of the money. On the face of it, I have told people that when you say beautiful curtain in hanging in the window,
yes,
it doesn't mean that everything in the house is beautiful. They say that this money is for tents, chairs, soft drinks.
Yes.
How did it turn out to be handouts to the people?
So people can choose their own drink. You might buy Coca-Cola and people are interested.
You see, the tents, chairs, and soft drinks. That was the curtain in the window. Some people came with their
umbrellas.
But that was behind. That is outright bribery. But again, what the question that comes to my mind, Central Executive Committee sat down and said, no, we are not going with the coca thing. The people shall.
They want
decide.
To cause confusion.
Now, why don't they wait for Nambole? Why do they have to do that? So, those are the questions I have.
Let's hear from Imam. What do you think is going to happen to those people who want Amama Mbabazi to be president? Maybe they should switch. The chairman should become secretary general. Amama Mbabazi becomes chairman for one term.
You see, what is surprising?
So President Museveni is secretary general.
Amama Mbabazi, in his life wish is also to become president of Uganda.
Oh really? He's told you in secret?
I don't need to be told. At least I have lived long enough, and I know many of his former colleagues who worked with him for a long time. Some of them I even have passed on since then. But that is his dream. However, the constitution as it is now, it is not on his side, and therefore,
what do you mean?
And therefore, because he has been in the games of intrigue, it is just intrigue.
He's a man of.
That's why some youths in the NRM are demanding, we want Mbabazi. The Kanung people, not Kanung people only, even some in Kampala, including some MPs, including some ministers. I know there are some ministers that have been
give us intelligence.
Have been subjected. No, this is not intelligence. This is public information that everybody can see. You see, anyway, it can be intelligence, because what is intelligence? Gather information, analyze it, and if you attribute it to your security or some other thing of your own interest, that's why it becomes an intelligence report. Therefore, I think Mr. Mbabazi is just being a gentleman, and but he's pushing on his agenda, and his agenda has clashed with the interest of his chairman, and therefore
maybe they should switch.
And therefore, the history of this country tells us that no political organization, the previous ones, up to almost now,
yes,
have we had good spirit or good blood running between the Secretary General and the chairman of the party.
And also
UPC1, Democratic Party, during the Democratic Party, UPC2, and even now in the NRM. NRM, it started with, when it was even still NRM itself, the political commissars who are supposed to be like Secretary Generals. All the political commissars have had a problem with Mr. Museveni.
But before we move forward, we know that in Africa, apparently, no Secretary General has ever become president. Maybe it will be the first time. What are you people going to do about this? But
the first thing I needed to clarify is that about the issue of that 10,000 or 5,000, whatever people are talking about, is that that money was either way, it was meant to facilitate the activity that called for. These honorable members first had a meeting at the district with the NRM structure.
Yes.
Yes, and when they reach the districts, it is the district that would finally decide on how best to spend this money. Therefore, if they decided to buy sodas with the money, if they decided to give it as transport refund, if they decided to give it the way they wanted to spend it, it is really their right.
And give it in the manner they gave it?
And you know,
you are proud of the manner,
there is no clear procedure in giving these monies because the monies are meant for the delegates, and this is strictly the conference, the constituency conference that was sitting there.
I don't know that I have forgotten by English.
There was nothing. There are delegates.
Let's talk about
what?
The conference, the constituency has a delegate. They have delegates there.
Therefore,
yes, they had it.
I have lost words.
They had to give it.
Yes, they had to give it either way.
Let's talk about something. And Sarah, you people are very upset about the president, talking about the Lord Mayor in the terms he used. You're saying he's using hate speech. How can you say he's using hate speech?
Sometimes I think that with age, I thought Mr. Museveni's mannerisms would change. Of course, we are used to having him abuse people. You remember in Kololo, he said, "Past leaders are swine." So it's not
quoting the Bible.
It's not something new that he's abusing people right now.
It says, "Cast not your pearls unto pigs."
But what I would like to remind Mr. Museveni is that he should appreciate a democracy. In a democracy, when you go through an election, whoever wins has to be respected and supported, not abused. If he didn't want any other person other than the person he likes to contest, then we should not have gone through an election. So it just shows how he has no, political tolerance to the opposition. I don't know what he wants to live like. If you can go to an extent of calling people jiggers, he called some of them murderers. You sit.
He's never called a single person a jigger.
Oh. You don't hear, you don't listen to the radio. But he has called so many things, right. so many nasty names. So I think the problem is his upbringing.
No, don't say things like that. That's an insult. We will not accept.
No, but how do you abuse people all the time?
You have to withdraw.
Did he land it in office?
We don't accept such language. Dr. David Mushabe, talk to us about this. Is it hate speech at all, or because it seemed to be saying this position was diluted? That's not hate.
Well, it is not expressly hate speech, but as you have introduced me to the listeners, I'm also the executive director of Africa Rainbow Alliance. And when I'm defining violence, I define it in different ways: in action, in words, overt, covert, direct, indirect. So when you tell people that you are strong, they are fighting a powerful person. You made a mistake to elect bad leaders in Kampala. You don't know that I'm still powerful. That in a way you're sending an intimidatory message. An intimidation arouses fear. Fear, that which causes fear, is a form of violence against the one who is afraid. So I wouldn't say it's speech per se, but I think the words border to some violence. But
well, he only said the Lord Mayor's position was diluted. That's not inciting violence.
No, but you see, I come from Zimbabwe. They told us that if we give Chijagere, the people of Zimbabwe vote only one Chijagere that they preferred. All the people of Zimbabwe will live in the land of milk and honey. All the services will be delivered. Now the whole of Maogola, they are suffering.
What do you have?
The roads are impassable. The services are not there. But I would want our dear president to realize that man or human beings have bounded rationality. He does not have absolute knowledge. He is not omniscient. None of any of the descendants of Adam has unbounded rationality. So people or citizens, Africans, should be allowed to vote and change their leaders through non-violent means, and they should learn from their mistakes, but not to say you have made mistakes and therefore you are going to suffer. That causes fear in the population, and it causes trauma. So violence can be manifested in speech, and this is not the man that I welcomed here in 1986. He would never use such words. He knew he was powerful, but he never reminded people that he was powerful. So I'm wondering what has caused this transformation to find it necessary to remind people that he's still powerful or he's in charge. You don't have to remind people. People know.
People need to be told the truth. If you're a classroom general, you say you are one. If you're a war front general, you say it.
But also in addition, Edmund, you ask Imam Kasozi, said, I know Imam Mbabazi wants to contest. You say, do you have privy information? Said, no, I know he's going to contest. But if if our president was sure that there is nobody going to contest against him, he would not be doing this. So this is a reaction to an action. Somebody is coming to contest, and therefore they have to preempt the.
You think the president is afraid of something?
Because they are the ones who have the intelligence reports. For us, we don't. They are sure somebody is coming. It might be Mbabas or somebody, so they have to put a ring around that position.
Talk to us, Mr. Kaji, Deputy RCC. Why does the president hate the Lord Mayor so much? You work in the city. You are in charge of the city.
I really don't think so. This is being misconstrued, really. It is...
one time he toured the city at night, he didn't even invite you.
The president made it very clear in all the rallies. I was there personally. But also what you should know is that you cannot invite a bishop to preside over Juma prayers. A bishop cannot go and preside over Juma prayers. Therefore, the president has a right to rally support for his party. He has to. The insults, I don't know about them, but the truth is the president has got a right because he's the chairman of the party, and therefore he rallies support. And for him to effectively preside over the Juma prayers, it must be the sheikh and then the Qadis.
And you insult the bishops.
No, you don't insult them, but you must rally your people who know how to do these things.
Suppose it
and therefore, this is not a religious prayer.
Yes.
It is not. Therefore,
if you're not for us, you are against
His Excellency was rallying support that please vote me, and he said that in good faith. He said it because he's looking forward to developing the city,
and we know exactly.
And for him, what he's saying that how do I best handle the city? I must work with people. I must have a number of people in the city who I can call and talk to and say, please, let's do the following. And it's not a very well speech about, towards the mayor.
She wants very well.
Yes, oh yes. But you have also seen the improvements that are happening in the city now.
A lot of things are happening. Street lights, no potholes anymore.
No potholes. They are driving comfortably and they're moving on.
Talk to us, Imam Eid Kasuz, about this kind of thing. Why do people hate the president so much?
Is this one an RCC of Kampala?
Yes.
Deputy RCC?
Yes.
And he said there are no potholes in Kampala?
Very, very few.
And he says there are no.
Go to any part of Kampala Central, there's no pothole. Show us.
My friend, Kampala Central? Don't waste time.
In Kampala Central, there are few.
After here, I want to take him to Kampala Central. Kampala Central.
Where are they?
I may not even need to travel even a kilometer.
Where are the potholes?
He's unfortunate, including where probably part of his office is. I don't know whether he's still in the street on William Street. I don't know William Street where it joins there, the other side. But that apart, I pity these younger men who are so fascinated by Yoweri Museveni. I am very certain he will hand to them what he has handed to his senior colleagues who are crying for now.
What do you mean? Don't threaten people.
I am not threatening. You see, to come and
people like Evelyn Anita
somebody to come here and Anita, this has been rewarded. I don't mind whether whatever they give them is not long lasting. They cannot be closer to Museveni, to the level of Mama Babazi, to the levels of Amanyam Shega, to the levels of the late Katega. They cannot. They cannot. So what is interesting, he gave us an analogy. He said the president that calling an imam to preside over
a church function.
He can. In an interreligious, we have an interreligious council of Uganda, and we have seen community. Even himself, even the president himself, a week earlier, the president had been on one of such functions where all these religious years. But what was it? It was politics. What is Lord Mayor doing? Politics. Therefore, the game that Mr. Museveni was playing, and what the road mayor is playing is politics. Therefore, it's somehow related. But I pity these younger men. This one, like this Kajiki, because I'm meeting him for the first time. The way he's expressing, to the extent of telling people that there are very few potholes. What are you talking about? I've seen it. When some places are not even passable, water was passing over the bridges. There are very few. I come from Kampala. I am a resident of Kampala for the last 30 years. Actually, not 30 years, as early as 1976. I first came to Kampala in 1976, and I have been there throughout. So this business is unfortunate, but I want to say the most important thing is now very clear. The war is on. Mr. Museveni is threatened internally. He has to fight on. That's why they are now inviting Kenya again. Come and we talk again. And then he has also conditioned. No, he said he won't talk. But he has conditioned. He can't talk to them on condition. Therefore, war is on. The unfortunate part, the grass, the Ugandans are the ones who have been suffering. Because Museveni has bags of money, Kenya probably could have, Mbabazi has, and those, all that clique, they have all this money. When they throw money at you? Then the peasants can't fight for 5,000 shillings, and then we say it is good news, and we are happy. I am sad, and I am very sad.
Dr. David Mushali, let's take the place to South Sudan. Yes, mass killings. But let's talk about Uganda saying Sudan backs reports in South Sudan. They are so far away from us. Why would that? How can that happen?
Well, it is possible. We are told our boys are in Central African Republic going after coal. Very far away than Sudan. So, but for me, we need to understand this. We need to look at the history. If Uganda has been accusing Khartoum of supporting LRA, and Uganda also supported SPLA, which later captured power, and now we have Southern Sudan. I don't think that the African politicians easily bury the hatchets. It is highly plausible that Khartoum is still doing the same thing, and that being the same, if that is the fact, then Ugandan interests would be threatened. So Uganda would be justified also to go in South Sudan and try to thwart the Khartoum moves. But it's the catch-22.
You know, they used to bomb our mango trees the other time.
Yeah, but if
they no longer do that.
No, if it is true that Khartoum is backing LRA, then it means they want to bring to cause regime change in Uganda
with his dreadlocks.
Now, if that is Imam, if you quiet, you talk too long enough.
Go on, Dr. Go on.
When SPLA won and took power in South Sudan, Uganda won. So I would not be surprised that Khartoum would want to see the same thing happen in Uganda. But the warning against Masha's forces by Uganda, to me, it serves to escalate the conflict. I think we might see this war escalating and becoming more bloody and more vicious than it has been.
You want us to support someone overthrowing a legitimate government?
No, but you see, that is their internal affair. So I think what now the Great Lakes region is beginning to object to is having some countries intermeddling in other people's countries.
But it's happened for Rwanda, DRC.
But would we welcome any other force to come here at this time, sort out our conflicts between Besigye, Museveni, Mugisha Muntu, Larotunu?
None of them has taken arms.
But if that was to happen, we would say, don't interfere in our internal affairs.
That's the old AU, where Idi Amin did whatever he could, the non-interference on the sovereignty of the state. They say that's old news. Now they have to interfere.
That is a curtain in the window. But this cessation of hostilities, to me, I'm not surprised that it has collapsed. This is typical of African fighters, the so-called revolutionaries. They sign papers which are not worth they sign agreements which are not worth the ink and the pen they used. So I think IGAD is not going to do anything. The Masha will win or Kiir will win.
Mr. Kajik, you come from this government. Talk to us about these matters. Why are we in South Sudan? Are we interfering in internal affairs of a sovereign state?
One thing I would like to make clear is that we are there on invitation of the government of Southern Sudan. We received an invitation by the government, and that is why we're there. And Parliament
was that before we went there?
Parliament approved this. No, the invitation. The only thing that delayed was the fact that Parliament was on recess, and they were called in to come and pass this. But we went there on invitation.
Before they invited us or afterwards?
And we went there. Really, one thing I want us to appreciate as Ugandans, that the interest that we must protect as a country. Do you know how many people were there in Sudan by the time that war broke out?
A lot of
about 5,000 Ugandans.
Probably more.
50,000, sorry, about 50,000 Ugandans.
Maybe even more.
Oh, even more. And therefore, did we want these people to all die there? We had to provide a safe passage for these Ugandans.
And we're still doing it.
And we are still doing it. We went there to protect and evacuate Ugandans.
We're fighting Riek Machar.
And therefore, no, the fighting was purely on the invitation. And what we should know is that we are protecting the interest of Ugandans. The 50,000 Ugandans who are living there, what they're bringing back to Uganda was a lot of money. Everyone knows
they still do, actually.
Yeah, they still do. And therefore, isn't it worth protecting? Do we want these people to remain here and die here poor?
Talk to these opposition people, they don't understand.
If there are opportunities out there, why not? Why not? There are a number of foreigners who are in this country, and
many of them.
Yes, and they're busy doing their thing. Therefore, we have all the interest.
My question is,
oppose things for the sake of opposing.
My question is, why is it that when SPL Museveni was supporting SPL, Mr. Museveni was supporting SPL, Uganda was supporting SPLA, we are right, and when Sudan is supporting Machar, they are wrong?
We are protecting our interests. That one is very clear.
I'm just going to ask questions. When we went to Sudan, we were supposed to evacuate Ugandans to bring them back home. When did the armament become to fight? All that is happening is an allegation. This is an allegation that they're trying to use to justify our presence in Sudan. But I think Ugandans...
Why do you think we're there?
Ugandans are just bad neighbors. We like fighting. Ugandans, we are bad neighbors. We fight in Kinshasa. We fight everywhere. We fight Uganda. We Ugandans. Because we went and fought in Kinshasa. We've been fighting in almost every country in a neighborhood. So Kinshasa, I said. I didn't say Tanzania. So I think this is not a very good trend, because we have enough problems at home.
You think so?
All this time and money we are concentrating on external wars. If it was brought back home, we'd have better social services, our education system would be smarter, we know our economy would be better, but we are spending a lot of time and money fighting.
This is just a diversional statement, trying to cool off the pressure, because the pressure is on in the party, struggling for who to become the next leader in the party. And so Mbabazi, who is being punched here and there, he says, I think now I can say this so that I can appease my boss. At least I have spoken against the Sudan. There is no way Sudan, which Sudan is supporting the Ugandan rebels? Which rebels? Where are they? Two, this RCC, if you are really there Uganda interests, you go and take the Ugandans who are demanding for their payment for the good they supplied Southern Sudan. South Sudan. No! If you did that, then you would. So this, please stop fooling us.
No, but should we leave the Ugandans to die from that side?
Give us some integrity of knowing some information.
As we negotiate, I think it is appropriate for us to
negotiation. You say,
thank you very much.
Kayura analyzed his position to them, and then you tell us that's it. You are
no, that's not true.
Junior's worrying me. He's not asking me for anything.
Maybe he doesn't want anything.
Watch this. Junior, there's a tub of ice cream in the fridge. It's all yours.
No thanks.
Have a jar of sweeties. You can have them all in one go.
No, I'm fine.
Let's go to the toy store and get everything you want.
I'm fine. And Mom, I don't